The King's Confession. My name is T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, King of Wakanda. The Black Panther. I say these titles and they sound like stone, like something carved into a mountain, meant to last forever. They feel heavy, heavier than any armor, heavier than the crown. You see the mask, the suit woven from vibranium and shadow. You see a warrior, a king. You see a symbol, but you do not see the man inside. No one ever really does. That is the point of the mask, I suppose, to protect the man, but sometimes I think the mask consumes him instead. I am speaking to you now, not as the king, not as the panther, but as the man, because I need someone to understand. I need to say these words, to let them out from behind the stone walls of my own heart. I need you to know why. I grew up in paradise. That is the only word for it. Wakanda is not just a place. It is a dream, a promise, a city of light and music, an impossible technology, hidden from the world by jungle and mountain and our own fierce will. I remember running through the glass towers of the Golden City as a child. I remember the smell of the red earth after a rain. I remember the sound of my mother's laughter. And I remember my father. He was a giant to me, not in his size, but in his presence. He was king. He was the Black Panther. When he walked into a room, the air changed. There was a stillness, a power. He carried the weight of our nation, the history of all the panthers before him, on his shoulders. And he carried it with grace. He taught me what it meant to be a king. He said a king is not a ruler, but a servant, a shepherd for his people. He said our first and only duty was to protect Wakanda, to keep it safe, to keep it secret. The world outside was chaos, he said. It was greed and war and suffering. They would come for our vibranium. They would come for our way of life. They would turn our home into a battlefield. And so we hid. We watched the world burn from behind our shield. And we told ourselves it was wisdom. We told ourselves it was for the good of our people. I believed him. I believed it all. It was the only truth I had ever known. The world was dangerous, and we were safe. That was the story of Wakanda. And then the world came for us anyway. It came in the form of an explosion. In Vienna, I was there. I saw it. One moment, my father was speaking. He was talking about peace, about understanding. And the next, he was gone. Just dust and fire. The stillness he carried with him was shattered into a million pieces. And so was I. In that moment, I was not a prince. I was not the heir to the throne. I was a son whose father had been stolen from him. And I felt something I had never truly felt before. Hate. It was a cold, sharp thing. It coiled in my stomach and whispered in my ear. It told me there was no justice. There was only vengeance. So I put on the suit. For the first time, it was mine. I took the power of the panther. I went to the ancestral plane. I saw my father again. He was there, in a field of endless purple twilight. He was proud. He told me I was ready. But what was I ready for? To be a king or to be an avenger? I hunted the man I thought was responsible. I chased him across the world. I was relentless. I was the predator my name implied. I did not care about right or wrong. I did not care about trials or evidence. I only cared about the debt of blood I felt I was owed. I was ready to kill him, to become the very thing my father had warned me against. But I was wrong. The man I was hunting was not the killer. He was just another broken man, twisted by his own grief. And the real architect of my father's death. He was a victim too, lost in his own quest for revenge. I looked at him, and I saw a reflection of myself. I saw the abyss I was about to step into. And I chose. I chose to stop. Vengeance has consumed you, I told him. It is consuming them. I will not let it consume me. That was the first time I made a choice that was truly my own. Not my father's, not the Black Panther's. Mine, T'Challa's. I chose mercy. I chose justice over revenge. I thought, I thought that was the hardest choice I would ever have to make. I was a child. I came home to be crowned king. I went through the ritual. I drank the heart-shaped herb. I felt the power of the panther spirit settle into my bones, and I felt the weight of the crown settle on my head. I stood before my people, and I promised them what my father had promised them. Safety, secrecy. I would be the shield. I would keep the world out. I was so sure of myself, so sure of my power. And then he came, a ghost, a whisper from a past I never knew existed. My father's brother and his son, Najadaka. The world called him Killmonger. He was a son of Wakanda, a child of the royal bloodline, and we had left him behind. My father, the great king, the wise man, he had made a mistake. In his duty to protect Wakanda, he had created a monster. He had abandoned a child to the very world he feared, a little boy left alone in a cold city with a dead father and a heart full of rage. That boy grew up in the fire my father was so desperate to avoid. He was forged by it. He saw the suffering of our people across the world. He saw the injustice, and he saw Wakanda, with all its power, do nothing. He came to our home not as an invader, but as family, demanding his birthright. He walked into my throne room, and his eyes. I will never forget his eyes. They were my eyes, my family's eyes. But they were filled with a pain I could not comprehend. He challenged me for the throne, and he was right to do so. It was his right by our laws, and he defeated me. He broke me. He threw me from the top of the Warrior Falls into the river below. As I fell, all I could think was, he is right. We were wrong. We hid. We stayed silent while our brothers and sisters suffered. We held the cure for 1,000 illnesses, the power to reshape the world for the better, and we did nothing. My father was a good man. He was a great king, but even great men have secrets. Even good men can be wrong. I was saved. I was healed. But I was no longer king. I was no longer the Black Panther. I was just T'Challa again, a man with nothing but his own failure. And for the first time, I was free of the weight of my ancestors. I had to look at myself, at my nation, and see the truth. The truth was that Killmonger's anger was righteous. His pain was real. Everything he said about Wakanda's failure was true. We had failed him. We had failed the world. His mission, to share our technology, to arm the oppressed, to liberate our people. It came from a place of love, a fierce, burning, twisted love. But his methods, they were my father's fear made real. He would burn the world down to build a new one. He would become the very thing he hated. I had to stop him, not because he was a monster, but because he was my family. He was my responsibility, my failure, my country's failure. I came back. I fought him. Panther against panther, king against king, cousin against cousin. We fought in the heart of our home, with the vibranium that had been both our blessing and our curse. In the end, I won. The fight ended. But it was not a victory. I took him to see the sunset he had heard stories about his entire life but had never seen. He was dying, and he looked out at the beauty of the home that had been denied him. He said he would rather die than be locked away. He said, just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from ships, 'cause they knew death was better than bondage. And in that moment, my heart broke. It broke for him. It broke for the little boy we left behind. It broke for my country and the lie we had been living. He was not a villain. He was the truth we had refused to see. He was right, so I made another choice, a harder choice. I chose to listen to him, to honor the truth in his pain. I went before the world, and I told them who we are. I ended the secrecy. I ended the lie. I opened Wakanda, not for conquest, but for connection, for help, to share what we have, to learn from others. Many of my people were afraid. They thought I was betraying the memory of my father, that I was inviting the chaos of the world into our home. Maybe I was. But to hide is to be afraid, and a king cannot lead his people from a place of fear. My father believed that to protect something, you must build walls around it. I have learned that to truly protect something, you must build bridges. So that is my story. The story of how I became king. Not by inheriting a throne, but by losing it. By being broken. By seeing the world through the eyes of the man I had to kill. I still carry him with me. Najadaka. His rage, his truth. It is a part of me now. It is a part of Wakanda. He was the wound that we had to face to finally begin to heal. I do not know if my choice was the right one. The world is more complicated than the stories I was told as a child. But I know it was my choice. I am not just my father's son anymore. I am not just the next in a line of panthers. I am a king who learned from his ghosts. The crown is still heavy. The mask is still there. But now, when I wear it, I am not just protecting Wakanda. I am trying to protect a dream of a better world. A world where no child is ever left behind in the dark again. That is my confession. That is my promise. My name is T'Challa, and I am still learning what that means.